The following is paid programming.
It's time to talk taxes.
New friends, new opportunities, new partners. EG Tax.
It's Ask the Tax Lady with Esther Gulius and EG Tax on News Radio 930 WBEN. To reach Esther now, call 803-0930. Toll free at 1-800-616-9236. And cell calls are free at star 930. And now, live from the WBEN studios, it's Esther Gulius.
Hey everybody, this is the Tax Lady, and this is our hour to talk taxes, and you know we keep you abreast of what's going on, so you're just the smartest guy in town. I'll tell you, everybody from Western New York, they know taxes, and we want to make sure that you get the biggest bang for the buck, and with all the new tax laws changing and things, we're going to make sure that you know what's going on. I'm joined in studio today with Tiffany Fabian. Hey, Tiff.
Hey there, Esther. Happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday, and it cooled off, hey?
Yeah, it feels so it's a different change. It was a quick change, too. I mean,
You know how it happens, you know. The light turns on, it's summer. The light turns off, it's winter. I mean, that's what happens.
Yep.
And Christopher Fabian. Hey, Chris.
Hello, Esther.
Hello, Christopher. All right, so, you know, everybody went back to school this week, right?
Yep.
And we thought, you know, talking about things that are timely, I think we need to talk about going back to school on your taxes, right? And so some of the things that are deductible and when your kid goes to college, or if you're going to college, all the credits that are available. And by the way, these things that we're telling you are some of the things that did not change. The major changes that happened were the SALT cap on the itemized deduction, and then some of the mortgage interest as an itemized deduction. But all these other thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of other tax changes are still in effect, and one big one is all of the education credits. And speaking of education, what do we got coming up?
Pretty soon, in beginning of October, we have our tax school that starts, and it's a great way. It meets twice a week, either in the classroom or online, whatever is more conducive for you. And it's a great way to learn taxes from A to Z.
And we will be teaching the changes in all the tax laws, will we not?
Yep, absolutely. We're going to be highlighting all the tax reform. And
right, so if you're somebody that's thinking, I would really like to know federal and state taxes, and really, we teach you more than you can really understand. But if you're a genius, you'll do pretty good. But I mean, the whole thing is we teach you everything, and it's a phenomenal course. So if they're interested, what should they do, Tiffany?
They should go to egtax.com to register, or call 632-7886 on Monday, and we could register you over the phone, or we can email you a registration form.
We have a special deal for Niagara County residents this year.
Yep, for Niagara County residents, as long as they work in our Niagara County locations, we will refund you the cost of the book fee. Yep, right. So that's the only cost.
Thing we charge. We don't charge anything for the instruction. The only charge is the book fee. And because we had several people from Niagara County that moved away, some of our preparers were unable to come back because of illness, we are looking for some really great people to work in a couple of our Niagara County offices. So if you come to school, we will not only train you at no charge, we will give you the book fee back.
Yeah,
well.
And then we have something new this year. If you don't want the paper copy of the book for half the price, you can just get the PDF or electronic copy. So that's always an option.
We are trying to be so cool, aren't we?
Yes.
I mean, like, for instance, this year we're going to have an online. You can actually go to our website and start to prepare your return online, and we'll finish it for you, so you don't have to come into the office. I mean, we've tried to really make it so that if you really want to stay home in your PJs, you can do that.
That's right, convenience, because that's what it's all about.
Right, and then the other thing, we have the Buzz Seminar.
Yep, we have the Buzz Seminar on October 13th at the WBBZ studio in the Eastern Hills Mall. That runs from 10 o'clock to about 4 o'clock, just after our radio show. We're going to do our live remote there. We're going to have tons of guests. We'll be there talking taxes. We have Jeff Katz doing elder care law, Dennis Kitchen doing general law and bankruptcy, Jeff Boron doing education, Mike Hayfleck talking about Social Security. We have
Exchange.
Russ Gullo talking about exchanges. And
Right. We have Hayfleck. We also have the insurance.
Ryan Ferraro.
Ryan Ferraro.
So-
I love saying his name.
So what's so great is it's a great diverse seminar. It's open to the general public. We're going to give you like a workbook so you can keep notes and make appointments with any of these people if you want to. But the whole thing is, if you don't have a will, or if you don't understand about gifting your residents to avoid the nursing home taking all your money, if you are somebody with large debt and you don't understand how bankruptcy law works for you, if you're somebody with kids that are going to college or going to go to college shortly, and you're thinking, gee, how can I afford this? We have Mr. Boron that's going to talk about that. I mean, we have Mr. Hayfleck who's going to talk about how to maximize your Social Security benefits when you reach that golden age. I mean, and then if you're somebody that has a rental property and you say, gee, I think I'd like to go to Florida and not pay taxes, we have
Russ Gullo.
That's Russ Gullo that's going to talk about 1031 exchanges. I mean, and we just have a plethora, and of course we're going to talk about taxes, and so we have a plethora of guests and subjects that will really make you smarter about your own finances.
It's so
and
funny.
of course, and there's no
charge.
obligation,
When people are registering for it, one of the most popular topics they have to indicate it is the tax reform. I think people just want to know what it is that affects them, you know?
That's exactly right. So talking about tax reform, let's talk about what's the difference, you guys, between a deduction and a credit?
A deduction reduces your income. So
Your
if
taxable income.
your taxable income, and a credit is a reduction of your income tax. So after you go to
a credit really is, if you have a liability, it's 100% write-off, right?
correct.
And some of these credits are refundable.
Yep, the government gives you it back.
So people that don't have to file a tax return, if they have a refundable credit, it means that the IRS sends you money that you didn't pay in.
Correct, which is pretty cool.
And one of the biggest ones that so many parents with kids going off to college or kids in college is the American Opportunity Tax Credit. And that's why we thought this week we'd talk about this. Tell our listeners, how much is the credit? How does the credit work? What kind of things are involved in the credit?
The American Opportunity Tax Credit is 100% of your first $2,000 of qualified expenses, and then up to 25% of the next $2,000. So the first $1,500 is a non-refundable, and then the next $1,000 could be a refundable credit. So 100% of the first $2,000 of qualified expenses and 25% of the next $2,000.
Okay, so let's talk about qualified expenses. So if you're on a full scholarship, right?
Yep.
And you aren't paying anything for education, but you did buy books, does that qualify?
Yes, it does.
Right. So it would actually be the let's say fluffy expenses for education. In other words, if you were taking gym and they charge you for gym, that's not going to be deductible. But what is going to be deductible is your books, your tuition, your fees, for enrollment fees, the cost of the education that actually you pay or borrowed.
Yep,
Right?
that's right. That's right.
The only one that's not going to qualify if it's something that doesn't have to ever be paid back, like a scholarship, like TAP and Pell, right?
Yep.
Because those are credits that you get that actually take away the bill. But anything you had to borrow or pay for qualified expenses will qualify for this big credit. Now,
And I think a lot of people get confused by that. If they get a loan, no, I didn't pay anything for college, but it's the year you borrowed it.
That's exactly right. And does it but mom and dad will say, but Junior paid for it. They borrowed the money. Who gets the credit?
Mom and dad.
Mom and dad, even though
claims.
Junior got. So here's the thing. While we're going to take this break right now, I want you to think 8030930, 8030930, star 930 on a cell phone. Did you let your kid take the credit? Because we want to talk about that, because you should amend those returns and get your money back. I'm Esther Gulius, the tax lady. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be back with your calls on the other side.
Rick Springfield. That's my generation.
Well, he was sort of, well, I mean, and once you get to my age, they're all my generation. Anyway, I'm Esther Gulius, the tax lady.
Wasn't that a song, My Generation?
8030930, 8030930, star 930 on a cell phone, and we're talking about education credits. And I mean, the bottom line is this is not $2,500 deduction. This is $2,500 in your pocket, right?
Yeah.
So to qualify for the American Opportunity Tax Credit, it has to be the kid or you have to be pursuing a degree or other recognized education credential, like a beautician, right? Or a barber.
Yep.
Right?
It has to go through.
Or a mechanic, right? It doesn't just have to be college. It has to be, and the educational institution has to qualify for federal funding. Right? In other words,
Exactly.
they got to be able to borrow
So
money.
it could even be a school in Canada as long as they take our federal aid.
Right.
That would qualify.
And then the kid has to be enrolled at least half-time for at least one academic period at the beginning of the year. Didn't finish the first 4 years of higher education, because after 4 years, there's a new credit. But during the first 4 years is the American Opportunity Tax Credit, and you didn't claim the American Opportunity Tax Credit for more than 4 years previously, and you didn't have a felony drug conviction, right?
I love asking that one to parents. Has your kids
My
been?
child never. But so that's what an eligible student is. Now here's the problem: the form that comes to the student is a 1098-T form, right?
Correct.
And it comes to who?
The
That's-
kids.
Right, and so that's what's so darn confusing. Here we got Junior, who's living for free on mom and dad's dime, and he's going to school, and parents are scraping together the money to send him to college. They send the 1098-T to Junior, and so what does Junior think?
It's
That-
his.
Yep. This is mine to put on my tax return, and then the kids start talking amongst themselves, and there's big credits, and so they think that they're entitled to that credit.
Right, but the kid, many times we see these kids illegally take the $1,000, right?
Yes.
Right, Chris?
Yep. Because if a child can be claimed by somebody else, and they don't check the box, they will get the $1,000,
Right,
but
and
it doesn't mean
that's
it's right.
Correct, and ultimately that would be sent back when the IRS audits them. But right now, the kid feels good. Look, I got $1,000. They sit at the student union and they tell everybody, I got $1,000. I'm not letting my parents claim that. But the thing is, if the parents then acquiesce and don't put it on their return, then the parents give up. Not only the $1,000, they give up an additional $1,500 and $400 on the state, and the $500 brand new child tax credit,
Family tax credit.
family tax credit. Excuse me. Thank you, Chris, for the technical.
Well, because there is
But
a
it's
child tax
Right,
credit. so.
but it's a brand new credit. So the parents lose 24, 30, the 24. The
About
parents lose-
$3,000.
Yeah, $2,400 is what the parents
34,
lose.
yeah.
Right, because if the kid got the 1,000 and it's 34, so the parents lose $2,400. The kid gets would have only gotten the 1,000. That doesn't help, which you're going to ask for it back. And so if you're listening and you let your kid, who you've been claiming as a dependent, take the AOTC, it's still time that they can amend the return.
Yep.
Right?
You have 3 years to amend the returns, and at least let us look at it and tell you. And you'd have to amend mom and dad's, and you'd have to amend the child's. But it's really easy. Really easy.
Right. I'm Esther Gulius, the tax lady from EG Tax, 8030930, 8030930, star 930 on a cell phone. So, and then I kind of alluded to the state of New York. What happens on New York State?
Well, there's a refundable credit. That's the one, whether you have tax or not, they're going to give you money back. And that could be up to $400, depending on the cost of the college.
But again, you had to claim the AOTC on the federal in order to get the $400 on the state, right?
No.
No, I mean, you had to qualify.
You had to claim
You
a
had to
child.
Qualify.
Yeah.
Right, you had to qualify for the AOTs, even though your income was too high. But then you would get the credit. In other words, the kid can't take the AOTC,
No.
and you get the credit on
No.
New York State.
No,
is what I'm
no,
saying.
no.
No, and a lot of parents too, the kids will balk about it, but a lot of my clients, they'll actually give their kids some money, say to make them whole. And so it's a really
and
good.
that's really what I love to do.
Yep.
I love to sit down. I bring Junior in with mom and dad, and I say, let's do Junior first.
Right.
And let's show him the most he can get back. Because many times the kid might have only made $4,000 or $5,000, and he's not going to pay any taxes anyway, right? Mm-hmm. So the only thing he's getting is if he claims this illegal $1,000, which can be taken back as soon as they figure it out, and the parents are kind of left holding the bag. So I show the kid what their refund could be, then I show mom and dad what their refund would be without it and with it, and I say, now why don't you just give your child $1,000,
Right.
and you're $2,400 ahead? And they think, well, that sounds like a plan.
Yep. And so it really is. And sometimes a lot of times it takes the kid coming in with the parents so they can see I write it down on paper, this is this without and with, and the difference for the family, the household, and it really makes a difference.
So now if somebody does amend their return, let's say that Junior did get the 1,000 and was in his junior year and mom and dad didn't claim it, and there was enough money for the full AOTC, but because he didn't have enough money, nobody really got the benefit. How hard of a process is it?
It's not that hard. We amend, do a 1040X for the federal and an IT 201X for the state. We amend mom and dad's. We amend the kids. The states go electronically. The federal go paper, and you just sit back and wait, and the IRS in New York State will also mail you interest. And it's, what do you think, Chris? Do you think it's a very difficult process?
Not at all. Pretty simple. And hopefully the parents' refunds come sooner, which probably not, before the kid has to pay back that $1,000. But if the child already got the $1,000 and he didn't spend it, he can pay it right back, and nothing, no extra money owed there.
Okay, so, and then with the brand new family credit this year, nobody gets the personal exemption anymore, right?
Correct.
So, but a child that's a qualifying child would still qualify for this brand new $500 family credit, correct?
That's
so
right.
Not only would the kid be shooting himself in the foot by taking the $1,000, but the family would, in addition, this year lose the $500 family credit.
Right, which is a
That
really
brand new
bad
credit.
and that's something difficult to wrap your mind around because it's brand new for all of us, and so
Right.
it's just something you got to consider.
Okay, I'm Esther Gulius, the tax lady. 8030930, 8030930, star 930 on a cell phone. Our toll-free number is 1-800-616-9236. And okay, so
Wait. I want to
Yes, sir.
speak, because we're talking
Oh,
education.
yes,
I want to
yes.
educate people out there.
yes.
A week from Monday is corporation deadline
Oh,
and
thank you for bringing
partnership
that up.
deadline. I mean, okay, it's no
For
big
extensions.
for extensions, and people are going, it's no big deal. But if you're involved in a partnership and you haven't gotten that K-1 yet, and you're not worried, they'll always get it done. On Tuesday, you start getting hit with a $200 a month penalty per partner. So if they don't get it done, they think it's October and there's 5 people in this partnership, that's a $1,000 penalty.
Yep.
That's quite costly. So if you're involved in the corporation, a partnership, ask the person who's doing the books, hey, is our taxes done? Where's my K-1? We have until the 15th is a Saturday, so that gives us to the 17th. Let's get it in.
That's
Very
a great
important.
point, Chris. Great point.
I know next week we're really busy because we're doing corporations, and sometimes people are like, I forgot,
Yeah, well, and that's why one of the great things about doing this show is that we make people think about taxes and they don't want to, and they just got off a vacation, the kids are back in school, the weather got cooler, and now, it's something about, isn't it interesting how when the weather gets cooler and you start to take out the wool clothes again, that you kind of put your head back in the game?
Yeah, that's well
You
said.
can just be so frivolous all summer, just kind of saying, "Oh, feels just like Florida." All right. So then, after the 4 years, and remember, it's trade schools, any 4-year, up to 4-year program that qualifies you for a degree or a recognized educational credential. Okay. After 4 years, you think, "Oh well, there goes the ball game," but that isn't true. There's another credit.
Yep, that's called the lifetime learning credit.
And this is per tax return, where the AOTC is per person.
Student, right.
The lifetime learning is per tax return. So it's a 20% credit of the first $10,000 spent on higher education, and none of it is refundable. So it's a maximum credit of $2,000.
But, I want to go back again, something that you just said that I think is really important. The AOTC is per student. So if you had 4 kids or yourselves in a
Cha-ching.
4-year degree program, each one could be $2,500 and save you $10,000.
That's huge.
Right?
Yep.
But the next level, like Chris was talking about, lifetime learning, is 20% of the first $10,000 in expenses, limited to $2,000 per tax return. So it sounds like a lot less. It is a lot less, and it's non-refundable. But it's still, really, when you think about it, the federal government is helping you pay for education.
Yep, which is
Remarkable.
well said. And I think we got to take a break.
All right, we got to take a break. I'm Esther Golias, the tax lady, 803-0930, 803-0930, star 930 on a cell phone, and we'll see you on the other side.
One way.
Hey, this is Esther Golias. One way or another, we're going to get you, right?
Or they are.
Oh, no, we're not going to let them get you, right? Good pun, Chris. All right. So, hey, before we get back to the lifetime learning credit, why don't we talk about, people have been calling off air asking about the seminar. So the Buzz seminar is October when, Tiff?
It is October 13th, and it's at the Eastern Hills Mall at the WBB Studios. BBZ Studios. It starts at 10 to 4. We're going to actually do the radio show there. It's a live remote, and we've invited the financial guys to come too.
EG Health Connect will be there too, right?
Yes.
That's right.
So again, and we are so thankful, really, that we have Tim Eliason, who's heading up EG Health Connect. So, and we really kind of were pushed into this because when Obamacare came into effect, we thought, oh my gosh, we have to tell people that they're going to owe penalties.
Right.
We got to be the bearer of bad news, and we didn't want to. So we thought, wouldn't it be good if we help people not to have penalties? So we started EG Health Connect so that you can know where you can go to get your health insurance at the least price.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And still comply with the law. And by the way, the penalty, even though, you listen to these people on TV and you think, oh, there are no penalties, but there are penalties through 2018, which is the tax return you're going to do in 19.
Yep. And so if you're interested in the seminar, which we'll have lawyers and people from Mike and Glenn, and Esther will be talking, go to egtax.com and register, or call 632-7886, and we can register you on Monday. There'll be snacks and food too.
Right. And several of these things, like for instance, when we have there might be a presenter talking about how to do the tax-free exchange, and another presenter and another place at the Eastern Hills Mall, because it'll be at the mall there, might be talking about the tax law changes, and so you kind of get to pick and choose.
That's right.
And we're going to have, if you're the type of person that don't like calling the radio station or asking questions in front of other people at one of these events, we have private offices set aside where you can grab us. You can grab one of our.
Chris, that doesn't sound good. That people are going to be.
They can grab.
Grabbing you.
They can grab. Yeah. Sorry, New York State don't want to go. But But you can talk to these people on a one-on-one
Basis.
That's the word.
That's it.
Right.
That's the ticket.
So we want to keep everybody informed on every topic. That's why we have all our special guests during the summer, because it's something that everybody should know about. And they think,
And you know, there are
money.
sometimes not sometimes, every time it starts with the decision. And so you watch one of these presenters and you think, "Cripe, I don't have a will."
yep.
Or my credit is, you know, you can't tell that the person next to you who is in debt, like up to their eyeballs. I had a lovely lady come in the other day who was a senior citizen with like $75,000 in credit card debt. And she said, "Esther, I don't know what to do." And so, you know, we talked about a reverse mortgage. We talked about a bankruptcy protection. And sometimes the best thing that you can do is just have somebody to bounce things off with, so that you see all those options. Because, you know, alone at night, you think you're laying on your bed and you're thinking, "Oh my gosh, what am I going to do with this?" And these kind of things are so good because they give you the tools in your tool chest so that you can do something about it.
Yeah, well, I had a lady call this week, and it's going to sound like a made-up story, but it's not. She goes, "My aunt just died, and I have some questions about her estate." I said, "Okay." She goes, "Well, first of all, let me tell you, 10 years ago, I had another aunt die who left her savings bonds to a third aunt. Well, that third aunt died 5 years ago, and she left everything to the aunt that just passed away, but no one ever did anything with anything else. So everything was still in the first aunt's name that passed away 10 years ago. What do I do?" I said, "Call Jeff Katz."
And he'll be there October
I mean,
13th.
He's
but
great.
it's like we say, you got to make sure your wills are updated.
Well,
because-
you know, there's one of my clients was a judge, and he passed away, and he had no will.
wow.
You know, I mean, when it's an attorney and they don't have a will. And so it just happens to all of us. And it's nothing to be ashamed of. Sometimes we just are procrastinators.
That's
You know,
right.
and you know, you just need somebody to kind of kick your little tushy down the street so
Yep.
that you
We're,
can
we're
do
not
the
going to
best thing
die.
for
I
you.
have time.
Yeah,
Right.
well, yeah, right. The Grim Reaper's at the door. But anyway, getting back to lifetime learning credit. So after the first 4 years of continuing education, any dependent or qualified somebody that would have been qualified as a dependent that's in the next level of qualified education could get a non-refundable credit, but a credit just the same of 20% of up to 20% of the first $10,000, but not on New York State, right?
Well, if they're using the lifetime learning for another bachelor's, then they would qualify for it on New York State. But if it's for master's or doctorate, then they wouldn't. But some people use the lifetime learning for another bachelor.
Okay, but then they wouldn't get it on the federal because they've already done the first 4 years of continuing education.
Right. The life they would get, right, if
Right.
they went
They'd
for a
get lifetime
second.
learning.
Yep.
Okay, all right, now continuing education for people in professions. Now, since you're not going to get anything anymore if you're an employee getting your continuing education credits, correct?
Correct.
That's right.
Unless it qualified for lifetime learning.
Right. If you were
Right.
enrolled, if you were accredited in a college, yes.
Right, so many people might want to think about doing their CPEs through an accredited university so that they could register and become matriculated for their CPEs, because otherwise, as an employee, your continuing education is not going to be deductible going forward unless they change the law. And this would be a great time for you to write your congressman and
Good
say,
idea.
"That's not right, that I got to do all this continuing education and I can't deduct it." But if these people were self-employed, then what happens?
Then, such as a realtor, they
Then it's
still can
deductible.
deduct it. Yep.
Right. So does that seem fair to you?
Right. And, you know, I was thinking while we were in the first half an hour talking about education, one of the things New York State allows on their education credit is use it as an itemized deduction or
Oh,
a credit,
good point.
whatever benefits you. But now you have this person who will say is in outside sales and their son or daughter goes to Canisius. So they have $40,000 worth of business expenses, so they're able to really itemize on the federal, itemize on the state, and get more of a bang for their buck with the education for New York State because you're able to use it as an itemized deduction. But now with the new law, with the SALT in effect up to $10,000 and no more business expenses, that person probably won't be able to itemize on the federal, which means they can't itemize on the state. So now their credit for their education for New York is reduced as well.
That's right. And that's another pain for a New York State resident. And you know what's interesting? It's like Congress and the New York State legislature has been deadly quiet on this.
You're right.
Because,
You're
you know,
right.
it ought to be that if you should,
Yep.
and you think about the New York State standard deduction, right?
Yep.
The New York State standard deduction is very low. And if you can't itemize on the federal, there is a discrepancy between the standard deduction and the federal standard deduction, which means that there's this whole level of people that are not only going to get shafted on the federal, they're going to get doubly shafted on the state. But I think the state would enjoy that because there's more taxes that they're going to owe.
When you
right?
told me that about 2 months ago, I'm like, oh my God, you're right. When I have the reduction in the amount of property taxes that I can claim or taxes, that also affects me on New York
And
State.
New York State. Right.
which
So
is-
now whether New York State is going to say if you can't itemize on the federal, but you can itemize on New York State, that they'll allow you to do that, that's yet to be seen. So
Yeah.
again, all your representatives in the state of New York, ask them, what are you going to do?
And speaking of New York State and taxes, New York State rebate taxes, our rebate checks are going
the
out.
STAR taxes
The
are
STAR
now-
check. Chris and I just got ours yesterday, which was really exciting. I think Cuomo is up for re-election, so it was all
That's
very
right. And he
timely.
feels bad about his helicopter. too.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's so if you're self-employed and you have continuing education, you're still going to be able to deduct it.
Correct.
Even if it's continuing education and you're not matriculated as a student.
That's so not
But
fair.
the only way that somebody's going to be able to get a CPE credit is if they're an employee, is to be matriculated as a student for the lifetime learning credit. So that'll be interesting in tax planning this year, so that you would see which would be the best to do. And by the way, speaking of tax planning, when is a good time to come in to see? Because really, we are way past midpoint.
Right.
So you want to make sure that all that extra money that you've been getting in your paycheck that you just feel so fat and sassy about, you might have to pay it back.
Right. Because they changed the tax tables, so you should be noticing more in your paycheck. But maybe with the elimination of the personal exemption and the SALT, maybe you shouldn't be getting more in your paycheck.
That's
so you
exactly
really
right.
want
And
to
again,
pay
you know,
attention.
all we need is your
Pay stubs.
pay stub for where you are, and we'll project it out as if it's the end of the year, and we'll let you know if you should change your W-4 now so that there's less take-home pay, so that you don't end up with a
And then-
balance due at
Oh,
tax time.
I just want to say over and over, if you get a letter, make sure you call our office. A lot of people right now have been getting letters about taking money out of Roth IRAs that they did in 16 and 17, and so the IRS wants you to pay tax on that money that you took out of the Roth. But the truth is, maybe if you look at your basis, you don't have to pay tax on the Roth. You do a
That's
Form
good tease.
8606.
So let's talk about that on the other side of the break. I'm Esther Gullius, the tax lady. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back on the other side. Hey, I'm Esther Gullius, the tax lady from EG Tax, 8030930, 8030930, star 930 on your cell phone. And Tiff is talking about all the Roth letters that people are getting out. Here's the bottom line. If you put money into a Roth, okay, then you got no tax benefit for it, all right? So that means that your basis that's going to be taxed is zero, but the appreciation, how it grew, is going to be taxed unless you kept it in past the age of 59 and a half and 5 years, all right? You had to keep it in for 5 years and age 59 and a half. Then all of it is tax-free forever and ever. But The letters that people are getting is the IRS says, okay, so you took $10,000 out of your Roth. We think it's taxable because you have to prove your basis, which means you have to prove the money that you put in, and you have to kind of do an equation between what you put in and what you took out. And just for simple math, let's say you put in $10,000 into a Roth and you took the whole $10,000 out and there was no gain. Then how much of it is taxable, guys?
Zero.
Zero.
Nada.
So then you would respond to the IRS and say, see, I put in 10,000, see, and here now it was worth 10,000. There was no appreciation. I'm taking back my original investment. It's not taxable.
Right. This one lady I was talking to the other day, she goes, I was just about to pay it. And then I talked to my banker and they said, oh, no, I don't think you have to. So just be leery and cautious and don't just pay what's on those letters.
That's right. When you get those letters, that's part of what we do at EG Tax. We will, first of all, it comes in like hieroglyphics, so you don't understand what they even said, But when you come to see us, we kind of simplify. We say, oh, this is what it says, and you go, oh, okay, And then we work to make sure that you don't owe it all.
That's right.
Or any of it.
Yep.
So, and there's no charge. We don't charge anything for interpretation. Is absolutely free.
Right.
All right. And you can call us at 632-7886. Our website is egtax.com. We had a text that came in.
Yep. The text says, Esther and gang, I already have my bachelor degree and work is demanding that I get my master's. So what college credit can I take?
All right. So you tell them what they can take.
Well, they would still be entitled to an education credit. That is correct, but they would only be eligible for the lifetime learning credit.
That's exactly right.
So the 20% of the first 10,000.
Right, which is still great.
Yep.
Yeah, but something.
Master's programs are not very cheap.
And then, I got to tell you.
Wait, let me put a little caveat on there. If they paid for or borrowed the tuition and related expenses. But if they got a full scholarship, then it's a horse of different color.
That's what I was just going to
I'm
say.
sorry, Tiff.
Yeah.
Great minds think alike.
Yep. There's some people, there's some nurses that I do tax returns for, and they've qualified for certain funding, and they actually get college credits, and they're actually above and beyond what they have spent. And so then some of that income becomes taxable.
Or work may pay for it.
And so
right,
what
so-
happens then?
Let's go back to the Roth thing because I love, me and the Roth. I'm just not a great proponent of the Roth because I keep thinking, you paid the taxes up front or you get no benefit up front. And then at some point in time, if you trust these people running the government, right? Then you say, when I'm old, if I make it till I'm old, I'm not going to pay taxes. But let's look at this pragmatically. Let's say that you put in $500,000 into a Roth. How much tax benefit did you get as you put it in?
Nothing.
Nothing, right? So if you start withdrawing, over a 30-year period on your Roth, and you think to yourself, I am so smart, I'm going to take $16,000 a year out for 30 years, and I'm not going to have to pay the taxes on it. Let's say that you're 65, and that was your only source of income. How much taxes would you pay on it, even if it wasn't a Roth?
Nothing.
That's right. You are right, Chris. So what many people are doing is putting money into a Roth so that they get zero benefit right now, and when they take it out, because the standard deduction on a married couple is going to be like $28,000 or $30,000 in the next couple of years anyway, they're not going to pay taxes on it at the end. So if they put $500,000 in and they were in the 22% bracket, they cost themselves $120,000 in tax savings as they put the money away.
That's just crazy.
But
But when I take it out, it's tax free, Auntie Esther.
But it was going to be tax free anyway. This is what's so nuts. We got another text that came in. We have people that don't have voices today.
Yep.
They're just texting.
It
Texting is
says, it says the tax law don't don't need to be so complicated. It makes life unfun to live. It seems to be complicated just so people can be employed unscrambling it. Well, that's true.
Isn't that the way life is? I mean, it's like flying an airplane. I wish that you could get your own plane and fly it.
Right.
Or drill your own teeth or fix your own medical. But
or write your own.
That's why you do need a professional, and otherwise you can do it yourself. That's one thing about the federal tax law. You can do it yourself. They don't mind if you pay too much in taxes. You don't have to do it with a professional. But it is confusing, and nobody knows more than us. We spend all day long, every day, saying, "Oh my gosh, if they do this, then this is going to happen." And what's interesting, I saw an article the other day about how some of the there's so many things that are happening in the change in the tax code that they're not sure that that's really what they wanted to happen, but they passed it so quickly that people didn't realize that if you did this, that's going to happen. Like, for instance, on the state of New York, for instance, on the itemizing, not itemizing on the federal means you can't itemize on the state. And that's not good.
And the sad part is, I think the rumbling was that New York State was going to do something to bridge it and to fix it. And like Esther said a minute ago, it's been really quiet on that front.
It's quiet up there. It's quiet up there. Why
Which-
don't we talk about the new family credit, Chris? You want to explain that?
Sure. The family credit is for someone who is 17 or older that you have in your household, that under old law you would be able to claim them, where you're supporting them. Their income would be under $4,150. You would be entitled to a $500 credit per person that qualifies for this.
So in lieu of the personal exemption, they now have this new family credit. And the same qualifications to have a personal exemption or somebody to be your dependent exemption is still in place, except that they're saying that all the same regulations are still in place. The difference is you don't get the deduction, you're going to get the credit.
Yep, and that's what you were referring to when that child is over 17 and they claim themselves when you should have actually claimed them.
Right.
You're losing that family relief
And if
credit.
the kid claims themselves, they don't get a family credit.
Right.
The
right.
family gets a family credit.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. And so very eloquently, I didn't
now-
even think about that.
And so that just makes that American Opportunity Tax Credit even more valuable for the family.
Yep.
Because of the family credit. All right, student loan interest, will that still be deductible?
Yep. Up to $2,500 per household.
Right?
Yep. So that's
in
still there,
effect.
which
All right,
helps
but
the
there
New
was-
York return as well.
But they made the 529 plans more liberal, right, you guys? Can either of you explain some of the changes in the 529?
Right. This is the federal, not New York State. The federal said you can start using your 529 plan for grade school and high school. So before it was just colleges. So on the federal, you can take the money out of your 529 and pay for your private education. But on New York State, if you do that, any growth plus the principal, so anything you take out would count as income on New York State because that money was taxed.
On the growth? Only
well,
on the growth?
No,
right?
because you took the principal out too, and you're not using it for college. So then your principal would be taxable too, because you got the deduction on New York State.
On the federal? On the federal, you get no deduction. Oh, you're talking, I think you're mixing.
I'm saying New
mixing
York
apples
State, you would pay tax on everything. The federal's letting you pay no tax on.
But there's no benefit on the federal, that's why.
Right,
Except for the
right.
growth.
Well, what I would like to say is I think our Catholic schools are amazing. And so it's good to see that if that's an option that you choose for your kids, it's there available for
Okay,
you.
but let's, before people are driving around their car, maybe going to church right now saying, oh, thank you, Jesus, we're going to get a big tax break for this. It really isn't, though, because let's say you put $10,000 into a 529 plan, okay? And it's a New York State 529, and that's great. You're going to save the money on the state. On the federal, you get no benefit at all, except for the appreciation on that $10,000. If you use that for on the federal to pay for private school. The appreciation will be tax-free on the federal, that's all. But unfortunately, like Chris said, on the state, because you did it, it's going to end up being taxable because the state doesn't follow the federal. So you have to be really careful.
Right. And one other positive about it is it's using up your assets now. So when your children are in college, that won't go against them for financial aid.
Well, and that's true too. That's true too. You know, that's part of what we do. There's no charge. There's absolutely complimentary consultation we make for anybody that would like to come in, and we'll be very happy to help you do the mid-year look back to make sure you're not going to owe money.
And don't forget, open enrollment for health insurance starts in October, right?
Middle of October.
So Tim and Karen and many others are at our office if you need help with the marketplace or getting Medicare.
Well, explain what open enrollment is in case people don't understand the terminology, Tiff.
Open enrollment is when when the insurance companies, will put it simply, opens their door and says, pick me, pick me. We want your money and give you insurance. So you can switch insurance is from October through December 1st, I believe, because it takes a month,
Okay,
maybe.
but here's the thing. You can still switch insurance anytime during the year if you have a special situation.
Yeah, and
any life-changing event.
And Tim told me new coming up in 2019, there's a buyer remorse period where you have a couple of months and you can actually change your mind, which he said is pretty cool. So if you're like driving the car and you don't like the bells and whistles, you can change it. So there's a lot of nuances.
All right. So if you're interested in help with your health insurance, and this is not only this is not just Medigap insurance, correct?
No.
This is all.
It's all of it.
all insurance.
And like you said, Esther, is that on your 2018 return, there's still a penalty that's up for unfortunate.
Many people, if you don't have health insurance and you don't call to find out about this, shame on you, because there are all kinds of free health insurance
Yep.
or insurance that is $20 a month for many,
Yep,
many
the
people.
essential.
Remember, this is New York State. This is New York State, as close to socialism as you can get is this state, because if you don't have the money, believe me, they want to help you out. And so before you sit around and say, I can't afford it, make sure you can't afford it, because ignorance is just... really, it's on you. Just make the call. Visit our website, egtax.com. If during the week you get any calls, no, not calls, any letters from the IRS, if they're calling you, it's a scam. Any letters from the IRS, State of New York, you need help, you can visit EG Tax at our corporate headquarters at 2475 Niagara Falls Boulevard. We're there to help you. Call us. We want to be your advocate. You can ask questions through the website. I'll answer them for you at no charge. Thank you for listening. I'm Esther Golias, the tax lady, with Christopher Fabian, Tiffany Fabian, and Frank and Jay in the control room. Thank you. God bless.